Welcome to your next quest. Now, this quest is going to be a little bit on the easier side, just a little bit of practice for you. I'd like you to create show and hide functions for the magic circle in the player interface. This will allow us to show and hide the magic circle easily without having to know exactly what class has that magic circle. We can just check to see if it implements the interface, and we can show or hide that magic circle. Now, as a bonus, create a set material function, and that way you can change that magic circle material if you like. You can set that magic circle material. You can perhaps make a show function that takes in a material. Maybe your material can be an optional parameter. So that just makes this system a little bit more versatile. So pause the video and conquer this quest now. Okay, so I need a couple of interface functions. I'm going to close out of the editor and go into my interaction folder where I have my player interface. And I'd like to add a function or two here for showing and hiding our magic circle. So I'm going to make a void show magic circle. And this can take a uMaterial, and if you wanted to be able to pass in a material instance or just a material, you could pass in a uMaterial interface, and then it could be either. So we can pass in a uMaterial interface. We can call this decal material. But I'd like to set it to null pointer by default, so it's an optional parameter. And I'd like to make this a Blueprint native event and also Blueprint callable. So we'll give it the U function, Blueprint native event, and also Blueprint callable, so that we can call that from Blueprint, say in our Arcane Shards ability if we wanted to. So now that we have this, we can go into our character, and I'm going to implement this in Aura character right under the player interface. Inside this section here, we're going to say virtual void show magic circle implementation. And that's an override. Okay, so it wasn't popping up, and that's because I had a typo. Blueprint native event was missing a T at the end. That's going to fix that issue. So back in Aura character, we'll try this again. Virtual void show magic circle implementation, and I'm going to want a hide magic circle as well. So we'll go back to our player interface and make a hide version of this. I'm just going to copy this, paste it right underneath, and call this hide magic circle. And we don't need any input parameters. And we can implement this in Aura character as well. Virtual void hide magic circle implementation. And we can go ahead and implement both of these. And we don't need to call super for these, or rather the iPlayer interface parent version. And what we're going to do is I'd like to show and hide the magic circle on the player controller. So we have Aura player controller here, which is not dependent on Aura character. If we search for Aura character, it's nowhere here in Aura player controller. I'm going to have that dependency be one way. Aura character is going to depend on Aura player controller. And if we search for Aura player controller, we see that in init ability actor info, we're getting it here. So I can just be lazy and copy that if statement and go back to show magic circle, and I can paste it in here. And now we have Aura player controller, but I don't need anything inside that if statement. I just want to call Aura player controller show magic circle. Now, we're passing in a decal material. That's a material interface, which means if we're going to want to use that, if it's not a null pointer, we can check if decal material is not equal to null pointer. Then we're going to want to set that material on the decal. And for that reason, the player controller should be able to do that. We should have a public function on Aura player controller to update the magic circle material. So we're going to have a new public function right here. We can just make a set magic circle material, or we can make show magic circle, take that in as a uMaterial interface. And this can be called decal material. We can set it equal to null pointer by default. And this function can just take it in. So show magic circle here can take that in. And if the magic circle is valid, we can then check if decal material. If that's not a null pointer, then we can take magic circle and get its decal component. Now, if we go to magic circle decal is protected. Rather than go through the step of making a public getter for it, I'm just going to make it public. And then here in Aura Player Controller, I'm going to get the magic circle decal, and I'm going to call set material and pass in decal material. And of course, this needs an element index. We're going to pass in 0. It's just going to have 1. And so only if that decal material isn't null, then we'll set that too. And we can test that as well. So now that the player controller takes in a material, which is optional, we can now go into Aura Character. And when calling show magic circle, we can then pass along that decal material. In Aura Player Controller, show magic circle, we don't need to check null here. We check for null in the player controller function. And for hide magic circle implementation, we can just call hide magic circle. Simple as that. And now that we have these functions, we can use them to show or hide the magic circle. And with that, we can compile and test out our new functions. Okay, so I'm going to open up those asset editors. I'm no longer going to do anything in the player controller begin play. I'm just going to close out of it after removing all that stuff. For now, I'll just leave the magic circles tick just for fun. And I'm going to go into another class, perhaps my character class in character aura BP aura character. And I'm going to call my interface function from here in begin play. So I'm going to get my event begin play. And I'm going to just right click and call show magic circle and get that player interface function. And I'm just going to get a reference to self and pass that into the target there and just call show magic circle. We're just going to see what this looks like if we press play, saving all first, and we see our magic circle. Now, what about this decal material? What if we passed something in here? Well, we can test that out by going to Content, Assets, Magic Circles, and we can take our M Magic Circle 1, and we can go ahead and say create a material instance out of it, call it MI Magic Circle underscore, let's call it underscore blue. And here in our magic circle, we have an emissive color, and this is a parameter. So since we created a material instance, we have this emissive color override, and I just clicked on set the preview mesh to a plain primitive, and I'm going to change this color override to a blue color, because why not? We'll go ahead and save that. And here in Aura Character, we can pass in MI magic circle blue. Compile, save, press play, and we have a blue magic circle. So this is kind of cool. Now notice that if I'm hovering over the enemy, we don't see that magic circle because we're no longer setting its location to the ground. If we hover over the enemy's foot on its toe, yes, we see it. But if that location is too high, we're not going to project that magic circle onto the floor. And that's just due to my magic circle's decal component here being just so short. If you want it taller, again, you could make it taller. And then if you're hovering right over the enemy, we'll see it. And it looks kind of cool with the enemy standing in the center of the circle. Looks kind of ominous for that enemy, like it's about to get hurt really badly. Okay, so now we have interface functions. The Aura character can show it. I don't think we need to test hide magic circle. I think we know it's going to work. So with that, we now have the ability to show and hide magic circles, which is going to come in really handy for our Arcane Shards ability. And we're going to get started making that spell next. Excellent job. Great job on the quest, and I'll see you soon.